Agile methods came into prominence at the time of the publication of the so-called Agile Manifesto in 2001. This was, as the name suggests, a pamphlet, a manifesto designed to attract the world's attention on the need to develop software differently. The manifesto was the work of a number of people. The original signatories of the manifesto listed here. Most of them, perhaps all of them, are in fact software consultants. And the manifesto gained a lot of visibility and has continued to be quoted widely since then. You can find it online at agilemanifesto.org. And here's what it says. We need to go through it in order to understand what Agile is about as seen in the eyes of its own creators. It's a text that contrasts certain old ways of doing software, shown here on the right, at least viewed as old by the authors of the manifesto, with a number of alternatives. They take care to indicate that they do not completely reject the stuff on the right. They say, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. We are uncovering, they say, better ways of developing software, not just by talking about it, but by doing it, by actually developing software. We are practitioners, and by helping others as consultants to do it. Through this work, we have come to value the stuff on the left over the stuff on the right. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Responding to change over following a plan. So you can see the difference between the stuff on the left and the stuff on the right. The stuff on the right is really traditional, or viewed as traditional, management oriented techniques that emphasize projects that are strictly managed. And the stuff on the left is more into individuals and collaboration and informality and people. So going through the four elements here, individuals and interactions, rather overly managed processes and tools. Working software, second point, rather than comprehensive documentation. There's a tendency in traditional projects to insist on documenting absolutely everything that the software is going to do. Well, the Agile view here is to say documents are only documents, and really what counts is software that actually runs. This is the last word, which solves all questions. Documents only say what the software should do. Software by definition says what the program does. 3, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Of course, you need to make sure that your software satisfies the needs of the customers. You can go have the lawyers involved. You can go weeks describing and discussing exactly what it is that the customer wants and accepting it or not. It's much better to involve the customers, to involve the people representing the business from beginning to end in the project, in the development. And finally, responding to change over following a plan. One of the characteristics of software, and of course we haven't waited for the Agilists to tell us that, is that software changes. Hence the word soft in the name, in the very name of the field. Well, what the Agilists emphasize here is that plans are great, but in the words of the German strategist Helmut von Moltke, the best battle plan doesn't survive the first contact with the enemy. And it's the same thing in software. Requirements and advanced descriptions of what systems should do are great, but as soon as you start implementing stuff and showing it to customers, they're going to want something different. Hence, what is really more important than following a plan is to be able to respond to change. These general ideas are complemented in the Agile Manifesto by 12 principles, and we're going to go through them because this is necessary to understand what Agile is about in the very words of its own creators. First, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. There are several ideas here. The need to satisfy the customer, so the prime role of business representatives, of people who are going to use the system in the end, and the emphasis on early and continuous delivery of valuable software that doesn't just run but does something useful. And it has to be early, that is to say, right from the start we're going to start producing software rather than producing documents or requirements or designs or architectures. And it's going to be continuous, that is to say, throughout the development we're going to produce software again and again. 2, welcome changing requirements. Well, between you and me, welcome is a little bit strong because very few people welcome having to change what they have already done, but the idea is clear. It's that software is solved and we have to accept rather than welcome perhaps that requirements are going to change even late in development, even when you're ready to ship or you think you're ready to ship. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. So psychologically this is quite important here. Change is not just something we accept as a necessary evil, it's something that we welcome, in their words, because being able to react quickly to requests for changes is going to give the business a competitive advantage. 3, deliver software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter time scale, that is to say weeks rather than months. So we are done with the old style of going away for months in order to work separately in the various parts of the system and then trying to merge everything. Instead, we are going to have very short iterations where we put everything together. 4, business people and developers will work together daily throughout the project. So it's not that we talk to the customers, to our users at the beginning to define the requirements and at the end to check that we met the requirements. We're actually going to involve them throughout. 5, build projects around individuals. So this is the emphasis on personal contact and on individuals, in particular individual developers, and support the developers. Give them the tools, give them the support they need, and trust them to get the job done. Emphasis on trust. 6, the most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within the development team is face-to-face conversation. Again, emphasis on personal interaction. 7, this is really a repetition because it has been said already. Working software is the primary measure of progress. Documents, requirements, designs, and so on are great, but they are not what's going to show you that you've really progressed. In the Agile view, the only measure of progress, or at least the primary measure of progress, is the working software that you have actually produced so far. 8, promote sustainable development. Don't overwork developers, it doesn't work in the long term. Make sure that everyone can maintain a constant pace indefinitely. 9, technical excellence. Emphasis on making things right, on doing things right, and on having good design and high quality code. 10, simplicity, which is defined here as the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, we'll come back to that, is essential. So emphasis on finding the simplest possible solutions. 11, the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. So the idea is that we should not over-manage developers, but we should trust them to organize themselves. And of course, these are all points to which we're going to go back throughout this course. And finally, number 12, at regular intervals, meet and discuss what you have done in order to reflect on the successes and failures, and in order, of course, to adjust the team's behavior accordingly. This is Agile as viewed by its creators, of course, at a high level of abstraction, and we are going to see the details of all the practices, artifacts, and other techniques that make it possible to put these general ideas into practice. So what we've seen in this first segment of our first lecture is a set of principles defining Agile as seen by its creators. It's actually quite a few principles, 12 of them, and they give us the general idea. To benefit from this course, it's going to be useful for you to have access to the corresponding textbook. It's called Agile, the Good, the Hype, and the Ugly. It was published by Springer. It's available both in paper and PDF electronically, and in particular, if you want to go deeper into some of the material that I will cover in this course, the book will be useful.